Good day to you, Leslie
Oh
dear.
gosh, good day to you,
Are you
dear.
feeling fussy today?
Fussy?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I guess a little bit maybe.
Are you musty?
No, I'm not. I'm not musty. Are you musty?
You tell me.
No, you smell great.
How's everybody doing today? There's not that many people watching, which is fine. It's Sunday. What's going on today? I don't think anything is going on. It was football last time we were on. That was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, was that the Super Bowl, right?
There
Yep.
was, yeah, it was Super Bowl. There was a halftime. I didn't watch it. We skipped it. We had a lot
I
of
never
other things
watch
to do.
it.
She never watches it. You have some childhood trauma around loud sports TV.
I wouldn't say that it's childhood trauma, but I don't.
You don't like the
it.
Adirondack? What's the pattern that you don't like?
Oh,
Goondang?
no.
Goondang?
Gingham.
Gingham.
I don't like gingham.
So gingham apparently is not like Japanese robot fighter jets, but it's actually and let's fix you a little bit because you're
Why
off
am
the
I
screen.
fixing?
It's actually like the pattern of a what's the curtain that you put on a table?
Like a tablecloth?
Yeah, it's like a tablecloth pattern.
It's a curtain that you put on the table.
Yeah, it's like, woo, let's cover up this
Oh my.
sunlight. What are you gonna log in?
I was going to, but I can't remember the password to this account. Would you log into yours?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that.
Oh.
So why don't you switch user to me? Sorry. So we did. We were thinking of things today, and I thought it would be great to have her read some green text, which is a 4chan phenomenon. I thought it would be cool to have like a reaction video of me reading green text to Leslie. I mean,
Wait, what does that mean? What is green text?
yeah, but it wasn't time to do that yet. So we took the Jordan Peterson personality test, which
Yeah.
is, where is it at? Why don't
It's
you
the-
save your...
I do, but this is an account I don't use very often. So I took this test actually like 6 years ago, and the way that it's set up, it's Jordan Peterson's website's version of the Big Five personality test.
Ooh.
And I like the Big Five a lot. That's what when I was studying psychology in undergrad, my professor really liked
it's like
this
the
one.
horoscope of psychologists.
It was like it gives you a good overview of your temperament, your basic temperament.
Yeah.
And so I really like this one, and his website offers a pretty good one. It offers a nice a nice sort of analysis of your results after you take it, and it offers you a chance to link it to somebody else's, which is kind of cool. So in that way, it's like the horoscope of, like how does your personality link up with your partner's personality. So I had to use a different email address because they only want you to take it once, and I decided to take it again because I looked over my results and I thought that didn't really sound like me, and so I wanted to see if I was right or not.
Like how? Did it not sound like you? Like you were much more agreeable than you actually are?
What are you implying?
Not that you'd be disagreeable. That
Well,
would not be agreeable.
One of the
with
things
me.
was it said that I was like only maybe moderate or low moderate in assertiveness, and I thought, no, I'm pretty assertive, so I wonder how that is. And when I took it again, it actually said that I was high in assertiveness, I think. So it was some of those kind of things, and I wondered, maybe my life has changed enough. Basic temperament isn't supposed to change very much, so it would make
Interesting.
sense if my results were relatively similar over time, and they were relatively similar. But
I just did it just before we jumped on, and it was difficult for me to do the test because I didn't know who I was talking about.
what do you mean?
Like, am I talking about
Yourself.
like how easily agitated I am in our life right now, or online? Like, I have this personality or this persona that I've created who is very disagreeable, who is really curious about how other people feel. But in day-to-day life, like, I don't really care how other people feel.
Well, then you just answer honestly.
But I care about how you feel because it directly affects how I feel. So it's just, so much of it was like, it really depends.
Yeah.
It really depends on like the incentive structures that I'm in.
Well, you just have to kind of think of what is your baseline.
I think
What is
I'm
you?
boring. I think that's what I am. I think I'm boring. I'm low in a few things and moderately high in other things,
Anybody
but I'm
who
not
makes
really.
up poetry like you do, quirky, you're constantly making up funny little turns of phrase. Your mind is always working.
Yeah, they're
on-
mind turds.
That's that's not boring.
They're psychic droppings.
Gross.
They are the
know.
ejaculate of my imagination.
Well, now you've gone and made it all gross.
It's just hydraulics, man. It's nothing big.
Man. Gingham. Oh, Ninja Kitty says gingham style. That's funny. Yeah, gingham. That pattern when I was pregnant, going through a lot of morning sickness, and I was working in a consignment store, and for some reason, a lot of the things that we were getting in were gingham. I don't know if it was just a fashion trend for a little bit or what, but it kind of somehow my morning sickness got associated with a particular visual pattern.
Oh, see, this is what happens with you. You get really intensely mapped. Like you map things really intensely to negative affect.
Really?
Like cold coffee. Like
Yeah,
you
I don't
vomit
like that.
whenever like it
No, I'm like,
crosses your.
this is a little too cold.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is like I drink coffee and then I get down, I finish my coffee, I pour a new cup and I bring it to you and I drink the rest of your coffee because you
Yeah.
can only have like a certain temperature.
Well, it's very nice of you too.
But like you have a very strong.
If our
I wonder if that's
personality
is
test
is
will
that
say
a
something about
personality thing? Okay, could you find where the
Yeah, it's
scale
right here.
report is?
It's right here.
Relationship report with Leslie E.
Yeah, that'll be it probably.
Right there.
There we go.
Okay. So Leslie, also you said that you weren't totally comfortable with sharing like your psychic energy with the internet.
Well,
or,
you
like,
said
your profile.
when you suggested that we go over our big 5 scores in public, I thought, I don't know.
So what are these
awfully-
big 5? Since you're so smart.
Okay, big 5 is the one of the acronyms that is commonly used is OCEAN. So the big 5 would be openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Yeah.
And it's just looking at your personality. At each one of those is a scale, is a spectrum. So are you high in openness, low in openness, high in extroversion, low in extroversion, and on and on. And then how those things interact with each other tells you something about your temperament and the way that you interact with other people and your environment.
And so you told a story about how in certain therapeutic contexts, especially with couples therapy, it can be really good to offset the blame mechanism of like, you don't treat me right, or right, like some tensions within the couple can be resolved just by understanding each other from like a semi-objective or psychological point of view.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also with yourself too, not just within couples, but also just with yourself. Sometimes it helps to take a look at, okay, well, this is an overview of what my temperament looks like. This is how I can be. A lot of the things about me can be explained by looking at these sort of baseline temperamental attributes. And it gives you a chance to sort of figure out if there are ways that you want to adapt to change things about yourself. Like I noticed that, some things that we're really low on, if you're really low on something and you're like, well, I can really see that that's getting in my way.
I could be a little bit more neurotic, guys.
A little more orderly.
Well, you're the orderly one.
No, I mean, did you see your score
Oh, no.
for industriousness and orderliness, your conscientiousness? Did you see what that was?
Well, I mean, I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a lazy bum.
Well, you're not really, but that's...
But I kind of
kind
am,
of
but
what
I'm
that
kind of
looks
not.
like.
It's just
No,
weird.
you're not.
Like, I'm pretty
But it's
industrious.
like, do you have to work harder to get yourself to do things
to
than somebody
motivate
else?
myself?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And so if you see that about your partner too, it's kind of helpful sometimes to take a look and say, oh, okay, well, this is where we're not lining up. And sometimes I might think that, like, I think in the very first one, what was it? I think they started with agreeableness in the couples report.
Did it?
And so
Okay.
it starts out by kind of saying, well, if you're higher in agreeableness than your partner, you might sometimes feel like they, what does it say? Implications.
You are typically in agreeableness and your partner is high in agreeableness. So I'm typical, I'm like chill, and she's like, yes, dear.
No, agreeableness is, okay, so it is, what is it? Politeness and compassion are the two aspects of agreeableness that the way that they are mapped in this test. So it says you're average in compassion. Your
Who?
partner,
Me.
you.
And
then
you're
it
super
says
compassionate.
Your partner is high in compassion. So
Yeah.
it gave you a 48th percentile, it gave me a 91th percentile.
So she cares. And I
But then look at this.
I let her care.
But look at this. Politeness. You are 76% in politeness, and I'm only 38.
Shut up, bitch. Wasn't that nice? Did I say that really nice? Like, she laughed.
You know, I can tolerate that because I'm not very
Oh,
polite, apparently, so I can put up with your shit.
You're not polite?
Apparently, I'm not.
Should we talk about, like, that interaction we had over the
I'm
Christmas
lower
break?
in politeness than 61% of people. What did I do over Christmas break?
No, we just had an interaction of, we had a very blustery interaction with a neighbor.
Oh, that was kind of funny. Did we already talk about that?
I don't know if we did, but it was really interesting.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
how
I
we
guess
kinda,
so, yeah.
How, like, we were both understanding, and I was being polite, and then she kept on pushing the issue, and then you, like,
I was like,
you ran out of
okay,
politeness.
No.
You ran out of politeness, and I'm like, well, I have more politeness to give.
Yeah, that's true. That was interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I guess it's that, like, there's a boundary there. Like, I'm not going to continue to.
Well, I think that, so there's certain, I wonder if it makes sense to think of it in terms of regulation. Like, I have high emotional regulation. So it's interesting. Do you get irritated? I get irritated more than I lose my temper. Like, I get irritated pretty quickly.
I don't get irritated very easily.
But I can hold on to my temper. I don't feel threatened that often. Mm-hmm. But I do, but I don't know. It's just so weird. Like, it's just really weird. It's So we were talking about the Minnesota psychological inventory, which you know something about.
Multiphasic personality inventory.
Multiphasic. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know that much about it. I know it's a test that's often used to sort of screen for personality disorders and other mental illness. It's I took it when I was in undergrad because I was part of this. I was taking classes with the master's program there because I'd already done so many. I was having to retake a lot of my psych credits because I'd taken them in at a community college, and then when I went into this university and I was in their psych program, they made me retake them, and I had a faculty mentor who offered me the opportunity to take them with the graduate class instead because it would be more interesting for me instead of just retaking the same material. And so I got to know some of these students, and as they were doing some of their work administering exams, they needed guinea pigs. And so I was just, since I was working with these students, they were using me for some of their tests. So that's the only way I got acquainted with that test. I've never had to administer it. But it's interesting.
I took it once and I failed.
You can't fail that.
Well, they told me to take it again because I was unscannable. Like, they
what does that mean?
I don't know. They said they couldn't figure me out.
Maybe they thought you answered something incorrect, or like you didn't.
See, that's the thing. Like, incorrect.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is what happened.
Maybe they thought that you misunderstood something, or that they needed to present the question.
Okay.
To you.
Well, I'm going to say what happened.
Okay.
So I took it because a long time ago, like in 2001 or 2002, I had a security detail job, and it was at a high rise in Portland, Oregon, and they had me take that test, and it was a really long test. So my roommate read out the questions, and I would answer them. Mm-hmm. And then he told me, don't answer that way. Oh. Because he had been in a psychological facility. That he had been locked up. And he was locked up for a long time, and then he realized...
You had a roommate who was locked up?
Yeah. And he realized,
that's really interesting.
He's like, all you have to do is just tell them what they want to hear.
Okay.
Like, you just tell them what they want to hear. And so I would say something. He's like, no, they don't want to hear that. Oh, so like, do you hear voices in your head, or do you often have weird ideas and something? Yeah, I have weird ideas. Yeah, I'm a writer. Of course I hear voices in my head.
Okay.
I can, when...
So he's saying that sounds like those, you're putting off some red flags. So alter this in order, yeah.
Okay. So maybe he futs with my...
Okay. So then...
My identity.
There were strange... Your scores were weird, and so they made you redo it.
I guess so.
Did you redo it?
Yeah,
yourself?
I did it all over 2 nights. It's a really long test. It's like 1,200 questions.
It's
or
very
something
long.
Like that.
Yeah.
You go over would you feel upset if your father gave you flowers? Do you want to drive over mice?
What?
They just they're throwing all these curves. They're literally screwing with you. It's like a pressure test. I'm
It's
like,
strange.
Okay. Yeah, it's really weird.
But they ask things, and they're coded in ways so that they can get at a particular aspect of personality without you understanding what they're trying to get at. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're
so
trying
that they can look from different angles at the same thing.
Do you think that mental illness is a thing, and like mental disorders are a thing, or is that a thing, like a narcissistic personality disorder? Is that like just how you're baked, from your point of view? Because I have interviewed psychologists, and they do say that there are certain personality disorders that are treatable and some that are not treatable.
Personality disorders versus mental illness, or as mental illness?
Okay, so that's a good question. What's the difference between a personality disorder and a mental illness?
Well, if you want a real expert opinion, you wouldn't ask me. But
is that your disorder or your illness?
no, I just don't know that I don't know that I'm going to have the best answer for you. I mean, if you really want somebody to break that down, get a clinician who's really their work. I mean, I'm trained in diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I've got clinical training, but I am not somebody who puts that into practice. So I'm no expert at all. From my perspective, I would say that there are people who have psychiatric illness that really do benefit from that clinical model. Mm-hmm. And personality disorder is complex, but the major hallmark of personality disorder is pervasive and persistent difficulty in your relationships with other people that follows a particular pattern.
Okay,
so it's relational.
Yeah.
But it's also about the way that you see yourself in the world. So it's, as far as Josh Slocum talks about this a lot. He likes to use the. Are you putting up our results, or is that
no? That was just mine. I don't know if anybody wanted to see it. I don't even know if it's interesting or not.
I mean, it's interesting. I think it's interesting to understand those things about yourself.
Well, I really do think that, like, I have an internet persona that I incorporate so often that, like, it's kind of a separate subroutine of my overall personality.
Do you have an actual, like, perspective from Internet Benjamin? Like, can you go into Internet Benjamin mode?
Well, there's even different internet Benjamins. Like, there's Twitter Benjamin.
Yeah, he's quite the Loki.
And then there's Interview Benjamin. And then there's, like, Leslie's little afternoon Sunday pet DeepEnd Benjamin.
Is that what you are?
Am I not something else? Yeah. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's cute.
But I guess it's interesting because it's like, do I get... So much of it is, like, emotional regulation as opposed to... Like, is it... It's one thing to feel certain ways, and it's another thing to act different ways. And is having the capacity to regulate your behavior over your emotion, like, which is your personality? The thing that you do, or the capacity to regulate your personality? I mean, I understand the stuff with with cleanliness or something like that, like orderliness. Yeah. It's like I have a high tolerance for disorder, but...
And I have a really low tolerance.
Yeah, you have a low tolerance of disorder, and I kind of function better when things are a lither bit messier.
I know, your office is crazy.
Yeah, my office is just this bundle of
I know, stuff. I can't even...
You can't even. It's kind of like a firewall, though, to keep you out of it. Yeah, it's like, oh, don't enter here. Chaos awaits.
I can't. It's like there's an energy emanating from the disaster that is your office.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not that bad. But it is bad.
Yeah.
Your side of the bed looks bad too.
Thank you.
The floor.
Yeah.
Oh, you do.
All my clothes.
I have to clean it.
No, I clean it.
No, I clean it.
I feel bad.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Because you're low in neuroticism, you're not going to feel that bad about it.
Well, what do you do with your neuroticism? It said on the personality sheet that Peterson he says if you're younger you'll have typically higher neuroticism than
really?
Older.
Younger?
Is that
it was interesting. That's
interesting. I think over time, and then men versus women, like they're trying to compare you in your percentile to the average person, but you compared to your own cohort or your own sex is going to be different than. Wait, I'm low in withdrawal. That's interesting. What's withdrawal?
Oh, wow.
You are low, this is me. You are low in the aspect of withdrawal. This means you are likely to be calmer in new, threatening, complex, uncertain, or unexpected situations. You are less likely than average to withdraw from or avoid such situations, but I constantly avoid those situations.
Yeah, but it says that your partner is high in withdrawal.
Wait, maybe this is inverted. 'Cause
No,
it seems
this
like
is...
you're always looking for, you want us to go out. You want us to ride the
But that's
ferry.
not about extroversion. This is about how you deal with negative emotion, negative, like difficult feelings.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
see, this is the thing. So in my internet persona, I get to curate the situations that I put myself in. So I don't put myself in situations where I need to withdraw. So I don't feel the need to express withdrawal because I'm not. I preload my.
Did you
reality.
feel like the questions were you having to think about an internet persona versus a daily persona?
No,
when
but
you
I
were
was
doing
thinking,
that?
well,
Because it's not about
am I
that.
agitated easily? Yeah.
Are
Like
you?
when a 12-year-old boy is acting like a retard, I'm very agitated very easily. But
You're getting better at it.
yeah, I'm getting better at it. But like that's because I'm regulating my emotions and
Mm-hmm.
allowing myself to adapt to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's the personality trait that's more important.
Well, it's just asking you what's your baseline.
Okay.
It's just looking at temperament. So things like, for instance, when it asks about aesthetics, like do you appreciate poetry?
I
you know-
don't.
Do you? Okay, you don't.
But I like
do you
to
see
create
any
it.
value in poetry?
I like to create it, but I
So-
hate reading it. Like this is the thing. It's like I like to output it, but I don't like
You
to
don't like
necessarily
to.
input. Like
What about music? It asked about
I
music.
hardly ever listen to podcasts, but that's all I do in my
Yeah.
life is make podcasts.
Well, it also asked about art. Do you think art?
Well, I
is
can
important?
appreciate hidden beauty that other people don't typically see. Yeah.
So those
like-
things are just going to be how you feel about those things. It's not going to be about how does internet you think or how does you in daily life think. It's just asking you a question about what your perspective is.
Mhm.
And so you're really just you can adapt all kinds of things, but what's your baseline? What's your temperament?
How much do you have to work at adapting to that?
Yeah. Sometimes you can want to do things that you don't do very well. Like
Yeah.
the low orderliness or low industriousness doesn't mean that you don't want to be on time to things. It just
Oh,
might
no,
mean
I'm
that
very
you struggle
timely.
more
Yeah.
to be on time or, and I'm not saying specifically you about time, but like people who are lower in things, it just means that that's their tendency. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily what they value,
Yeah, values.
Yeah.
Do we have a conversation?
Why
about
did you
values?
make this about splitting crosshairs?
Oh, because
was it because we're splitting hairs about our?
well, one, we're in the deep end, so
thing?
we're splitting hair. We do a lot of splitting
Yeah, we
hairs.
do.
A lot of our conversation is about splitting hairs.
You think so?
We don't have to get into that, but I was thinking about like the way that like the alchemical process that difficult or contentious discussions go through with us. Like we have a contentious discussion, and it keeps on presenting itself until we directly tackle it.
Tentious. Is that a word, or did you just make
It's
that up?
It's
like-
tense, but it's tentious. It's
It's like-
contentious.
This is like Lewis Carroll. He made up all kinds of words.
Well, see, I'm high in
Yeah.
in poeticism.
I think that's a made up word, a
poeticism.
neologism.
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, it's like it. Well, the play is like contentious, but like
Yeah.
we're just tentious. But then we go through like I've seen us like a difficult conversation, and like I'm avoidant. You're like less avoidant than I am about like disagreement. And so, but it'll keep on popping up until we finally just tackle it and go through all the emotions. And then it kind of like it goes through this alchemical process where we start to joke about it and we start to live with this issue and like be kind of friends. It's like this dog, we're kind of like taming this dog, like this little, kind of like rescue animal. Like, it's like, okay, well, how do we get it?
Our relationship is like a mutt.
Well, no, our relationship is like Noah's Ark. There's all these different like animals
that's
and
fun.
horses and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I was just watching us with different conversations or different issues, and we're really new in our relationship. We aren't even.
We've been married for, is it 4 months?
Yeah, but we moved in together in June, and like we met each other in April, so it's
Well,
not
we
even a
met
year.
each other in November.
Well, we met our personas like knocked some mics.
and some emails. Yeah.
So we're really new, so we have a
Yeah.
lot to figure. It's just really interesting to look at our relationship and how much we've done in so little amount of time. And I think that's because we're both psychologically adept in a lot of ways. We're both kind of really good at people and reading people. And also, I think so I don't know to what degree is it compatibility or what degree is it like we're just like we sync up in a lot of like secondary ways. Like our age is very similar. I guess temperament would be interesting.
Yeah, the temperament, it's pretty similar in some ways if you look at the big five, but with some differences.
Yeah. But I also splitting crosshairs. You have to lean in a little bit more to the mic.
I do? Okay.
Yeah, please. So the audio is better. I don't have to fix it so much. The crosshairs was that you got retweeted by
Ninja Kitty thinks you're in trouble.
KJK.
What are you in trouble for?
KJK?
Just oh gosh, yeah, the silly internet thing. That's interesting. It is interesting. I keep wondering like how much is the internet discourse and these Twitter fights that I know you say that this has been going on for a long time, and maybe this is just what Twitter is, but it's still sort of, I mean, I haven't been engaging in it for very long. And what really I started to see after the GenSpect conference was these people getting really upset about, I guess splitting hairs in a way, but that's not going to do justice to the meat of the people's problem. I mean, the substance of the issues that people are raising, I think is really important. The women who were really upset about a man in a dress attending a conference for gender discussion felt like a lot of people felt like this was just terribly disrespectful to the seriousness of the issue and the concerns that people had.
And there were safeguarding or trauma guarding.
Yeah, so there's that.
Issues.
But I'm trying to give the argument, I guess, some respect and not just dismiss it. It was never, to me, a matter of dismissing that argument. It was a question of is there anything you can really do with that? Is there how do you handle a dress code issue like that? It's easy to draw a line and say, don't allow men into women's private spaces. But when the man is acknowledging that he's a man and he's not trying to go into women's private spaces, thank you.
This is too cold for me.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
You're going to drink it anyway?
I'm going to drink it anyway.
You're very tolerant.
Thank you.
But when, his overall behavior is pretty normal and respectful and polite and all the things that you would want in a professional setting, and it's only a matter of attire, how do you establish a line around that? And that was the question that I wanted to explore. It's like, if someone's outward behavior is all fine, but they're wearing something that's coded for the opposite sex, what do you do with that? How do you make a rule that says, sir, you're going to have to go change your dress, but you're not turning to the woman who's wearing something that's really masculine and telling her she has to follow the same rule? Like, how do you do that? And that, if he were, and the people who were mostly expressing frustration with this were people who hadn't actually been at that event. Yeah. It seemed.
Can I add a point? I think that Stella O'Malley recently got under the crosshairs. Oh man, I almost said something rude. Of the same group for just exploring openly to what degree, we don't know to what degree are women, lesbians or women motivated by a sexual or erotic desire when they dress.
That's
we
interesting.
Don't know.
And how much does a regular Joe or Jane who's not, there's no fetish, there's no sexual orientation, we're talking just a straight heterosexual person.
Did you gonna say cis? Did you stop yourself from cissing?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
I didn't. I don't like that word. I don't consider it legitimate in any way, and I don't say it unless it's about my sister. And then I'll say cis. But anyway, no. I mean just an average person. How much joy and self
affirmation,
I guess self pleasure do we get out of the way we dress sometimes? Yeah. Kim Kardashian, isn't that, she's the one who I know you have this whole like Kim Kardashian is an autogynephile thing that you do. She had this, I think it's really ridiculous, but I tend to kind of think a lot of new slang is ridiculous, but this phrase, I'm feeling myself, just really feeling myself. Like it's like taking a picture, taking a selfie, trying to look sexy because you think you look so hot in your outfit.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
There's a whole...
Is it wankery?
There's a whole meme.
Is it wanky?
Is it?
Is it?
I mean, it's like gratuitous self-aggrandizement, I guess. So it's this sort of from that.
I don't think if you accept the possibility of the female autogynephile who puts so much effort into idealizing herself as a woman, I don't think the difference between that type of behavior on a female or a man who seeks gratification by cross-dressing, I don't think the woman is far less likely to be able to achieve that that peak pleasure without an audience. I think that the selfie or the showing of themselves as a woman
far less likely to achieve it without the audience.
I think that a man, cross-dressing man, or a man who's a transvestic fixation or fetish or sexual orientation can do that alone. And the woman, I think that a woman who has the desire to realize herself as a woman, at least in our culture, I think that it needs to be.
I just
she needs
disagree
to be
with
seen
this entire premise that you're
female.
raising about the female autogynephile.
Okay, well, yeah, but like, just
I think that
okay, we can quibble over that. But do you see what I'm saying about?
I want to quibble over that.
Okay.
I just want to quibble over that.
I wanted to get to the need of the audience participation for validation. That was like over there. But we can stop
the cats
here.
Or the audience.
We can stop here.
Just
back here.
Briefly.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't want to derail you.
End.
I just want to say briefly,
Yeah.
I just think that this idea of a woman as an autogynephile, we already have a word for that. It's just narcissism. It's just conceit. It's just we're being self-absorbed. We're having a moment of being obsessed with ourself if we're doing that. And I think that the modifier or the use of that word as a marker, the gyne, the woman, is an unnecessary add-on. So autophile. You are being, I guess so.
So a wanker.
Sure. Just a wanker. Yeah. Or whatever. But yeah, I think that the idea that someone might get excitement out of their clothing and out of the image that they're presenting is not necessarily something that is anybody else's business in terms of how we can regulate each other in social settings. There are going to be, we can distance ourselves from people that we think are behaving in a way that doesn't seem appropriate. If it seems like it's gratuitous and self-aggrandizing, we can spend less time around that person and decide that they're not somebody that we want to spend time with. But does it necessarily indicate that the social contract has been broken to a point where we can set rules around it? Like, can we police someone's state of mind that way? I mean, we can police the state of dress, but I would just want to know, what are the limits? How do we define, like, at the same conference, this is the thing that just came up recently that caused the Crosshairs, the big criticism, and the Kelly J. Keane putting me and a bunch of other people on a blacklist of don't pay attention, don't platform, these people platform the wrong people, so don't watch their shows or listen to their stuff, was about another person who was at that same conference, and it's Julia Malott, who's a trans person, trans-identified male, so trans woman from Canada. And I've talked with Julia a couple of times. It's been a professional exchange of ideas.
Yeah, you guys get along.
I have found Julia generally to be reasonable and have some moderate takes on some things. The latest thing that there's a stir about is apparently Julia made some comments about males breastfeeding, and I have not watched those comments. Julia does these like a lot of thoughts, commentary pieces, videos, and I haven't watched this one, but I take it, and so I don't want to represent what the content is if I haven't actually seen it. But the thing that people were upset about, they're saying that Julia thinks that it's okay for males to breastfeed. I don't.
Yeah.
That's not my opinion. I'm not in favor of induced lactation. I've heard grandmothers, there was a thing, this is way before the gender thing, was this thing about grandmothers inducing lactation so that they could breastfeed their grandbabies. And I found this really bothersome. It bothers me to think about a woman who is not naturally lactating, feeding a baby, because it's an awful lot of pharmaceutical intervention that it takes in order to generate that breast milk. And there's something very unnatural about this body is not in a state that would have produced that child. Breastfeeding is kind of like the fourth trimester in a way of pregnancy. It's supposed to happen after you've given birth. It's you don't pass off part of your pregnancy to another person to carry, because you can't do that.
What about wet nurses?
Well, a wet nurse I would think would be slightly different if a woman is naturally in a phase of lactation, because she's also just recently given birth, and she's lactating and breastfeeding, and she also tandem breastfeeds someone else's child.
Wait, this is the war on tits. We're doing another this week on the war on tits. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, okay. Well,
Great.
So I don't know that I would have, I don't know that I have an issue with that. In fact, I donated lots of my own breast milk to other people when I was...
Is there a titty van?
No.
Like it goes around and picks up...
No, no, it's more, I worked with a lactation consultant. I worked in a naturopathic clinic, and one of my coworkers there's a cat trying to get into a bag.
Bodhi, stop.
So, and, she was always working with clients who were struggling to make enough milk. And so there was a donation process. Some women pump too much, and then they donate it to women who aren't. You're such a child. You can't.
I'm sorry.
You can't.
Some women pump too much. It's just such a good song.
They pump more milk than they end up needing.
I have to.
Oh, you're such a child.
I have to share my my childcore metal band.
Oh, yes.
Dark Pout. Yeah, my mama didn't pump enough for me.
Jeez. Well, I had a friend who was struggling to produce milk when my son was little, Julian was little. They were born within a couple months of each other. You're gonna laugh. I gave her extra milk, so I would feed him and pump, and I would give her my milk. Yeah. You can laugh now if you want.
No, it's fine.
I don't think it's funny, but
no,
if you want to think it's funny.
It's very precious, but we're just mammals. We're just such mammals.
So I guess I'm drawing a distinction. Like if that's natural, that's milk that's naturally being produced. God, Benjamin. Why are you laughing at this?
I don't know why. It's just like,
you're such a child.
It's like titty exchange. It's so wholesome.
This is why women don't like you on the internet.
I know. This is why the crosshairs.
You're a little boy.
Oh, sorry. I can't stop laughing about this.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. This is a really
Tell me
serious
when you're ready.
Conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just contextualize? Can we back out a little bit?
Yeah.
And then we'll
we have layers to back out from.
Back in.
Do you want to ignore some of the threads and go back to a main one?
Okay. Well, so your recent crosshair experience was that this person that you had interviewed months ago and came under
Julia a couple times.
Yeah, Julia came under fire for some opinions that Julia published after the GenSpec conference.
Very recently.
In November.
I think there's something about Canadian...
Wait, hold on.
Canadian people, some medical association endorsing breastfeeding in men. Okay, so that's what Julie said.
Wait, hold on. So I'm working up to that. Okay. So back in November...
Yeah.
Julie had made some comments not related to this issue, post GenSpec, and came under fire then, and you probably got mixed up in that somehow, but you said you published a statement online saying, I've found Julia to be a reasonable person.
That wasn't in regards to anything that Julia said. That was in regards to a photo of Julia that was put up by GenSpec, and then the way that the people were making fun of Julia.
Oh, okay.
And it was really ugly stuff. It was like it wasn't about the content of anything that this person has said or done. It was just appearance-based mockery. So people were just ridiculing Julia for Julia's appearance. And I thought that that was really mean. And I said I found her to be a kind person and pretty reasonable, or something like that. I made some statement about, like, just saying, you know, I've worked with this person and found her to be. And so there's right now there's this whole Puritanism with pronouns too. And so that was another area where I'm being called out by these people for sometimes using wrong sex pronouns for people. And I've talked about that. Like, I feel like nobody should ever compel you to do that. I don't think that anybody should compel you to give pronouns for yourself or to use any particular third person pronouns for another person that you don't feel fit. And I think that we're in an awkward place with all of the gender experimentation and
transhumanism.
Well, and transgender.
Yeah, transgender specifically. Yeah.
That's been going on. We have a lot of people right now who are presenting in either an androgynous or a cross-sex manner, and it is difficult sometimes to navigate that interpersonally. Like, how do you determine what you're going to call somebody? How do you determine how you're going to talk about someone? I generally, with trans people, I generally try to avoid using pronouns at all. You're going to laugh again.
No, I'm just thinking about the boobs again.
Oh, gosh.
Let me just.
Do you need like a palate cleanser?
Let me just set up the conversation. Just let's slow down. Okay. So, you replied to a thread that was mocking Julia Malott, and you said, "I've spoken with Julia."
I can look and see what exactly I said.
Let me.
Okay. Go ahead.
Then Julia recently has said something pro men. Chemically induced lactation.
Apparently, I don't even know that that's the case. I just know that that's what's being stated.
And then, for some reason, I don't know why, Kelly listed a bunch of people who have platformed Julia Malott and tied Julia's present statements to Julia's previous interactions with these individuals, yourself included.
Okay.
And then she used you as an example of Gen Spec's finest.
Yeah, she mocked fun of me. Made fun of me.
Mocked fun of you.
So what I said was on November 14th, I said, Julia Malott is a kind and intelligent person with an admirably nuanced and centrist take on some controversial issues. I was delighted to meet her in person at the conference. This is what I said to sort of make a statement of support where I saw a person that I found to be a reasonable colleague, I guess, in this whole gender experience. I wanted to say something supportive.
Yeah.
And that's how I have found Julia. Yeah. I mean, I've talked with Julia. She's been kind. I don't know her very well. I know her professionally.
Yeah.
And this was my take. And what doesn't make any sense is to take something from November and use that as evidence that I support some stance on male breastfeeding.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You had more to say. I will.
No, it's just. I don't understand why somebody would take a previous statement and apply it to a present situation.
It's guilt by association. It's classic cancel culture. It's you platformed this person.
Yeah.
You need to make a public statement renouncing them, or else you are now bad because you're forever associated with a person that you have made positive comments about in the past.
Yeah.
And I just don't play that game. I find that to be childish, and I think it's part of the problem. It's just the same. It's the same stuff that the anti-racist crowd does, and it's the same stuff that the social justice people do. And I'm allergic to it. I can't bend to that. I don't care. It's what made me decide. Pretty much all of the attacks made me think, well, I'm never going to watch that video now, and I'm never going to weigh in on it. I have an opinion. I'll make my opinion known about the male breastfeeding thing. I'm fine to do that.
think
But as far as like getting in and making a condemnation of somebody based on everybody else telling me that I have to do that, I just refuse to do that.
It's interesting that your defense of Julia was an expression of fairness rather than politeness. But you have low politeness, it says, on your personality, but you were standing up for justice.
I don't know.
Weren't you? I mean, you're standing up for fair. These people were being rude, and you stood against them. So it's just interesting that you're motivated by a sense of fairness, which isn't that related to politeness in some way. But you're not. I guess politeness is the nicety. I just don't. It's just interesting.
Yeah,
Like there's a
yeah,
distinction
that is interesting. Let's see how
between treating people fairly and
You want to do that?
being a nice person, I guess.
Yeah, let's see what they say here about politeness.
Oh, implications of neuroticism as a couple.
You're being tangential.
Oh, and you're being
Let's see, politeness.
Chinchil.
Politeness is, a measure of a person's obedience, deference to authority, and their sensitivity to social norms. People who score higher in politeness are deferential, respectful of norms, and conflict averse. People who score lower in politeness are less deferential, less respectful to norms, and more comfortable challenging other people. So
it's not about what you're challenging. It's just interesting that there's one marker that tracks social conduct and another that tracks morals. And
wait, which is social conduct?
What did you just say? Just like politeness is about conforming to
it says it's
social mores with regard to treatment of people, and that's distinct from fairness or justice.
I don't know that
in
it's
a moral
with respect
foundations
to
way.
Treating people any particular way. It's just about a reluctance to challenge people, and a desire to be conforming and obedient.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just not that way.
But you're conforming and obedient to your own morality.
Well, that's my own internal. That's me making my own way. That's me deciding for myself.
Okay.
But as far as outside pressure, I don't feel much. Like the little Twitter mobs, the angry people telling me I need to do X, Y, Z. It's just silly to me. It doesn't. I'm not going to base. I guess this is sort of like asking you: are you somebody who's likely to do a lot of virtue signaling? In a way, are you more likely to be someone who's going to do things in order to demonstrate your compliance and your adherence to whatever social expectations
or
are
authority.
out there. Yeah,
it's another phenomena, and again, I don't know why Kelly J. Keene would go after you specifically, and that's a whole other issue. Why she would act that way? I don't think that's a proper way to act because I don't think it's good for her cause. And I mean, I don't have anything.
I'm not going to
against
criticize
her
I
personally.
think she's doing some good work.
Yeah, I would like to have her on. I want to keep the channels of communication open. But another phenomena with Kelly specifically is her followers are so intensely followy. She has this swarm of females that follow her. She's got a lot of groupies.
Are you going to say it?
What?
What you said the other day.
What did I say the other day? I can't remember. Did I say something?
You said.
Oh.
She has a.
Well, let me set that up before you say that. So we were just kind of talking about people who have high disagreeable presences on Twitter, but also are not just shit stirrers, but get shit doners.
Yeah.
And Kelly gets shit done. James Lindsay gets shit done. James doesn't care who he ticks off.
Yeah.
Like he will go after anybody.
Yeah.
Like and it's kind of odd. You're like, whoa, he doesn't have any. Like, he's not tied to any group at all. He's tied to his principles, and he follows through on his principles. Kelly's a little bit different. She's tied to a kind of a group mentality insofar as her explicit stated purpose is let women speak or women's rights. She's always like, she's women's rights. So James has...
You gonna start with James?
Yeah, it makes sense, okay?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
because
listen.
it's not what you said.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what I said. Listen.
Okay.
James operates with a meanness. It's the meanness. Like his center and his execution, it's meanness. It's very individual. It's very I. It's an erect capital I.
Erect.
Kelly J. Keen's got a weeness. She's always talking about we. You know, she formulates a lot of things under the weeness banner. So she's just waving around a weeness, and James is waving around a meanness. But they're very similar in their power to affect change.
This is the silliest conversation we've ever had. You can't stop talking about.
Well, I didn't bring up your bouncing biscuits.
I can't stop laughing.
There was a super chat. Let me go over to the super chat.
God.
Thanks, Jenny. $10 from Jenny's getting inking with
nice.
it. Thank you so
Jenny.
much. Yeah, and you, I have to start saying this now because of taxes.
What?
But if you guys enjoy this channel or our talks, like and subscribe and consider donating. The links are usually in every video. They're not in the link. The tip jar is not linked down below. Yeah, but sounds like KJK is using cancel culture to her own ends. Wonder if she realizes that pretending someone co-signs everything an undesirable says is a means of putting words in someone's mouth.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an efficient way of political behavior.
Well, efficient, maybe, but ethical? I don't know. I mean, again, I kind of just always come back to content and process. And like, if your side of the issue has these principles or these values that you're trying to stand up for, but then you go ahead and use the same Machiavellian, unethical means to execute your purpose, what are you doing?
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem with liberalism. This is the problem with tolerance. This is the problem with polite society. This is the problem. This is the Schmittian question.
Is that you might get smacked in the face with a weenus?
Or the boob van won't deposit your milk.
Oh gosh, we're children.
No, in politics, there's a friend-enemy distinction. And to what degree do we, like if you look at the dissident right, what I call the DR, the dissident right online, they're constantly saying, look, people, the centrists, so-called, the classical liberals, are always apologizing to and for the left and always criticizing the right. And that's where you get the
Is that true, though?
If you look at it consistently, people are always if you're a centrist, you're always trying to like make sure that you are reasonable, but you're always apologizing to the left for the right. You're always excusing, well, I'm not right. I'm not right.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not right. No, there's this distinct tendency in politics for the friend-enemy distinction to be either covertly or overtly being displayed and executed. So insofar as Kelly J. Keen's tactic of shutting off dissent and roping off her audience from other voices is beneficial or not beneficial is a different question than whether or not her... there's ethics and then there's efficiency. She wants to create, and Kelly, or her followers or whatever, I'd love to have you back on to talk about this as a strategy matter, because I'm really interested in this. Kelly wants to create a women's party. She's making a women's party. To what degree is it politically viable to have a so-called women's party in politics? Like, what does that even mean? Like, they only have a few issues. What do they do about... They need a democratically viable monopoly or a majority of votes, so they're already splitting half the population, right? And then they're assuming that a woman is probably a woman who aligns with their values.
Well,
so they're splitting it even further.
That's a good point, and that's, I think, really an important and relevant point to this discussion. I mean, one of the things that I keep being told since the GenSpec conference, since I came out and talked about the problem of the dress code, and I wasn't on the band. What are you going to laugh about now? What, you're smirking.
I'm sorry.
It was, you don't listen to women, or women are trying to tell you, or women feel this way, and you're making fun of women, and they're telling me this.
Oh, they were telling me it too.
Meanwhile,
and you, yeah.
meanwhile, I'm talking about what I think,
Yeah.
and I'm talking with other women who are talking with me about, I mean, like I've talked with Pamela Garfield Yeager, who was also at the conference. We've gone into that a little bit, talked about what we thought in our analysis of the conflict post-conference, and I've certainly talked with my colleagues from Solid Ground about this, and so I've talked about it with a number of women, but what we're being told is that we don't listen to women, and we're ignoring women and what women think, and this sounds like the same thing that, I mean, what is it? Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're the woman face of man supremacy.
Something like that. Or of AGP supremacy is what they're saying. Yeah, and that,
you're a ball palmer.
What is that now?
That was something that they called Megan Murphy at some point.
A ball palmer?
Yeah.
Meaning?
You palm balls.
Oh, Benjamin.
I think it's like a polite phrase of cocksucker.
Oh.
Like it's like not only are you a cocksucker, but you're a ball palmer too.
Nice. Okay.
It's really interesting how.
And so it's like any nuance in this discussion, It's the same thing that you're saying. It's like you're kissing ass to this side.
Yes.
And so you're invalid because we're hardliners.
Yes.
And so I must not be a real woman, either that or I'm a traitor to the real women.
Yeah.
Because I don't automatically adhere to whatever they're saying, kiss the ring, bow, renounce the bad people and the wrong thinkers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We spoke with somebody the other day offline, and this person said something to the effect of the difficulty of neutral voices, or the difficulty of making neutral points viable. And I just been thinking about that today at our church. Like when I was in worship, I was just thinking about being a crossroads for different points of view, being not disagreeable, allowing other people's points of view to come across, and allowing these different points of view to have their say and to intersect serially on my channel. And my channel becoming just this smorgasbord of a certain bandwidth of political thought. And I would say that without feeling bad about it, like I skew center right, and because I think that there's more interesting things going on the right with regard to independent thought and really strong personalities, and also the center right or the dissident right. They don't have a lot of exposure, so I'm getting to like interact with things.
You feel like you're talking to the underdog or something?
It's not just underdog, but like with the detransitioners, I got into listening to detransitioners because they were just overlooked. Like they're not getting a lot of attention, and so their stories they're incubating without all that attention. So once a lot of attention goes onto an issue, it gets really watered down and blown out a lot.
See.
And so in the dissonant right sphere, there's a lot of like people are playing around with ideas more, and there's not so much scrutiny and not so much exposure on that, so that people are being a little bit more creative. It's a little bit more messy, I guess. It's kind of like my office. Like there's dark nooks and crannies and crumbs here and there. And like, oh, what's over there? Like, let's look over here, and stuff like that. So where was I going with that? Oh, that was just like my...
The difficulty of being neutral.
The difficulty of scaling neutrality. The difficulty of being successful, so-called, as a media producer or content creator, as somebody who doesn't have strong opinions. And I was thinking about that, and I've thought about that a long time, about the people who win on Twitter, the people who get a lot of likes and retweets on Twitter, are saying, the people like in my jurisdiction or in my associative like proximity, politically speaking or issue-wise, they say something that was fresh like 3 or 4 years ago, and then they get thousands of likes. And I just don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to say things that are like anodyne and pablum, or just like normal things, and so I miss out on a lot of engagement. I either have to be spicy or I have to take a position, but I want to be.
What about just
I want to be
being
engaging with the position.
being honest about your thoughts about something? About the given issue.
Well, it seems like the given issue, it's not even just about the given issue. It's about like having a position on the given issue. It's like I don't even like really care to have a position.
Well, that's kind of how I felt about this men with breastfeeding thing. I don't really feel like it needs an awful lot of analysis because I back all the way up to pharmaceutical intervention, and that's where I draw the line.
That's where you cut the.
I mean, it's problematic for so many different reasons.
Cut the glands.
Yeah, the glands, the cord, the
moobs.
I don't know about that. Yeah, moobs. No.
I don't think it's correct. Yeah, so with regard to chemically altered men breastfeeding, there was an article not that long ago from, I think it was the NHS's some trust issued some sort of paper.
Was that
said,
what it was? I thought it was Canadian, but maybe
it was NHS, and they stated, the article stated that it's perfectly fine for men to breastfeed. And it was really interesting because for so long the pharmaceutically run, or at least propped up medical journals and stuff have been decentivizing women from breastfeeding, if I understand the situation correctly. Breastfeeding has been kind of like decreasing over time, or at least
I think it's increased recently, but it took a big dip in the 60s and 70s when a lot of moms were encouraged to give their babies formula. And then our generation, a lot of people weren't breastfed, and
and look how we turned out.
I was breastfed.
So was I think. I'll have to write in.
Write in?
Yeah.
To your mother?
Yeah.
You have to write into her?
Yeah.
I think that it is a natural body process, and so to really influence it with chemicals is going to change the composition of the milk. It's a living fluid. It's an organ. How did we end up back on this? We were just talking
you know
about
what? I did interview one woman a couple years ago who turned out to be a lactation specialist. And she said, she was talking on a cellular level, like breast milk is actually like a living organ.
Yeah, it's a tissue.
It's a tissue?
It is a tissue. It actually responds like the mother holding the baby. Mothers have this compulsion to smell their babies and kiss them and put their lips on their babies. They're just constantly, you're like testing, you're sampling
chemically,
basically. And then your body's actually responding. So when your baby is ill or exposed to certain things, the breast milk makes things that help respond to that. And breast milk is different throughout the day, different times of day. It's got different protein and fat composition and things. So it's actually mapping onto the needs of the baby.
That's so amazing.
It is amazing.
I mean, it's hilarious and miraculous too. Like, I'm going from laughing and crying to it. It's just so freaking miraculous.
Yeah. To think that a man's body could produce anything like that is just, it's bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Or a person who is not naturally in that developmental state.
Yeah.
I don't know the science behind it. I haven't studied it, but it is just very deeply disturbing to me to produce that via an artificial, hormonally manipulated, pharmaceutically manipulated process.
Yeah.
But again, you were just talking about neutrality, and we ended up back on that. I feel like this is the really tangential.
You're fine with organic raw cow's milk, though.
Well, I don't give it to an infant, but yeah, I'm fine. I drink that. Give it to the boys. I think it's better than almond milk or soy milk or any of those weird things.
But that's not a moral issue.
I mean, I guess it is if you really want to talk about animal husbandry and factory farming and how are the animals being cared for. You could get moral with a lot.
Yeah, but just the act of drinking milk from another animal.
Maybe. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of weird that we do that. But it is very nutrient rich, and it's good for your gut. It's good for you and there are people who will refute that and say that it's wrong. It's bad for you, and it's actually caused lots of problems. But it tends to be a really nutrient dense food. But I don't know. There's a lot to say about that. Do you want to go there? Or do you want?
I don't want to be in the crosshairs of the almond milk industry. No, thank you. You want to help me read some of these comments? Was there any questions? I flipped my opinion on surrogacy instantly when I heard a lesbian radfem criticize it.
Interesting.
Flipped which way?
How? Yeah, I wonder.
Rib rascal. I think he's being a rascal.
Surrogacy is interesting. Who's Lodi? She is kind of too SJW for me. Is she talking about me? Maybe Kelly J? I don't know.
Okay, this is Sophie says holding the line is important. There are lines that should not be crossed. This is okay. So this is the political prompt. Where will you draw the line, and how will you hold that line? And what method are you going to adopt to enforce that line? What line are we talking about? Are we talking about men breastfeeding children? I think that there is. I haven't thought about it because I would have to construct an argument based around my disgust. Okay. Just like first and foremost, I would have to say disgust. That's wrong. That's morally wrong, and that's just a black box. So I can't really actually make an argument on that grounds. Totally. But I just, my position would say, no, this is not correct. This is incorrect. Actually, this is a perversion. And then I think I could back that up by saying this is not, it's not natural. So it's chemically induced, so I don't think it's good for the baby. We don't know. You'd have to submit babies to lifelong,
over time.
Yeah, you'd have to do a lot of things. I don't even know if that's ethical to do, but basically it would come down to what is the purpose of a man's body as opposed to what is the purpose of a woman's body. And that there's an ontological purpose in male and female bodies, and I really like the kind of Catholic position that was derived from John Paul wrote a book on sexuality, sacred sexuality, and I spoke with Maria Brandel about this, and I believe Mark Barnes and Maria Brandel on New Polity get into this when they talk about gender, about there is a moral content to the bodies that we have. Like our bodies, because they are a creation of God, they are a tool of love. They're meant to, they have a purpose. They have an ontological reality that suits their purpose. And that purpose is love. And a woman's ability to create life and sustain life is a sacred thing because it's a manifestation of a divine reality that is being produced physically for us to behold and to cherish and to worship. A man doesn't have that capacity. A man doesn't need that capacity. But then, if I do that, why do men have nipples? If they're not there to be useful. Like, why would God create man with nipples? If man didn't have if there wasn't some sort of meaning in the nipple.
That's a good question. Here, I wanted to get, where's this one? It was Chaucerian Fraud had a question that I wanted to go back to. This one right here.
Okay. I'm going to have to...
Can you pop that up there? Part of me agrees with KJK, trying to be nuanced about a dude dressing up like a woman and trying to participate in a society like a woman seems a bridge too far. That's an interesting thing to bring up. I think that I agree that there are questions about that. That comes back to the whole trans debate in the first place.
Yes.
The fact is that right now we have an entire generation of kids that is being indoctrinated heavily to think that trans is not only good, but desirable.
And real and always been there.
Yeah, and so we've got an entire generation of people that are impacted by this ideology. And I was seeing it when I was in graduate school. It's the first place I came into contact with this. And I'm okay.
Right.
And
continue.
And so we have people already doing this right now. And, these are not, that one aspect of a person is not the only thing about a person. So there's lots of other personality characteristics, desires, interests, just everything that makes a person a person. Trans is not the only thing about them. So I've worked with people who are trans identified, who are lovely people, who have a lot of wonderful things to offer. And I don't like gender ideology. I'm not a fan of transgenderism, but there are a lot of things that I don't like that people do. and I don't have to be intimately involved in the private decisions of people. I think it's wrong. I think what we're doing in schools and in education and the social justice ideology is a malignant and coercive process that is not taking people in a good place. But it's kind of a love the sin or hate the sin thing for me. And there are people who have made a lot of choices with regard to body modification and plastic surgery and things like this that I also wouldn't have made and might think are unethical for their surgeons to have done. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to treat that person like they're a social outcast. They still can move and do and so like at this conference, for instance, this gets back to the question that Chaucer and Fra is bringing up. That this particular conference, there are a lot of women who wear really manly clothes and still pass it off as professional, wear very male typical clothing and even men's clothing.
That's because men are awesome.
Okay, so there's that.
And women are special.
Okay, so women are wearing men's clothes and they function and act and do and blah, blah, blah. There are also trans people at the same conference who are dressed professionally in conference-going attire of the opposite sex, of the sex that they are trying to present as. And, natal females that are bearded and wearing men's clothes and for all intents and purposes dressing and looking like men and acting like men and doing whatever men do. Natal males that are dressed fully as women. In fact, one that was so well passing that you wouldn't have known. Nobody would have known. I think this person is pretty incognito even. So won't even say who that was or anything. But a person who wouldn't have raised an eyebrow could have been in the women's room and nobody would have known because passed so well. And so where do you start drawing lines? That's my question. It's not about, do you have a disgust response? Do you hate it? Do you feel outraged about it? And it's just, what do we do? That's my question. What do we do about that? Like the Phil Lilly thing, and he's wearing a dress, but he's also fully admitting and embracing that he's a man and talking about the reasons why he likes to dress like this. And then when he's in polite company, not doing anything that tips you off that there's something sketchy about him except for the dress. I mean, the dress was the only thing. Well, the book. But like he's not like twitching and salivating or looking like he's going to go and do, he's not imminently he's not imminently going to do something fetishistic. He's just wearing a dress. And as far as regulating people's behavior, regulating other people's behavior, I'm just asking how do you do that in a way that doesn't also involve mind policing and policing the content of people's thoughts? How do you do that? And so I don't disagree that, and I understand the sense of repulsion that some people have. I don't personally have as strong of a sense of that. I'm really bothered by, I think that there's a massive medical malpractice scandal going on, and I don't think that doctors should be promoting this the way they are. And I think that teachers and therapists are basically agents of the pharmaceutical industry right now. It's basically you're a bunch of pharma shills that are trying to pull more people into this body modification process. Yeah. But as far as individuals that have made the choices that individuals have made, who am I to even say that it doesn't make them happier?
There's that one line between adults and children. And involving an infant...
Well, this is not about that. His question was about men wearing women's clothes.
Okay, yeah. The downstream of that is that... Like if a man is going to plug into the social fabric as a female, and we accept that, then... why would we not accept a man plugging into the biological fabric or attempting to?
I wouldn't personally say that I would accept a man plugging into the social fabric as a female. Okay. Or vice versa. I would just say that's a person. They're doing that's an act of individual choice. But when I talk about a trans person and I use wrong sex pronouns for them, I'm aware that I'm doing that. I'm making a choice between two things that feel uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable, for instance, if a trans-identified male or a trans woman, however you want to call that person, is fully living and attempting to present as a woman, even post-op, I feel uncomfortable saying he, and I feel uncomfortable saying she, and I don't know how to navigate that, and I end up usually using the pronoun that they prefer, but I try to avoid pronouns altogether.
I default to they.
Do you? All right. My boobs are gone because I breastfed. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Wait, what? They
That's what
sucked you
Lodi
dry?
said. Yeah.
Wow.
That
That can happen?
happens. Yep.
They just like,
It can happen.
wow.
But if you
That's a greedy
get older
baby.
and gain weight, they'll probably come back.
They'll pop back out. Don't you worry.
Hopefully so.
If not, you could probably borrow one from your sister.
But also, what's the value of always having like this neotenous, like youthful figure throughout life? We value that too much. That's a whole nother conversation.
You're using your weenus. You're waving your weenus around on that one.
Not literally. Yeah, no.
Well, that was cool. I feel like it's time to wrap up. We usually talk about board games, but we haven't played any board games this week. No, we got Earth back.
Yeah, we did play Earth this week.
We played
it
Earth
with the kids.
Have we haven't played it. Maybe we should play it on my gaming channel sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's a good game.
I like that one.
It's a really good game. I think that's probably one of our top games for the family. Everybody gets involved in that game. The 10-year-old likes just the story part of it. He's not too into all the mechanisms and stuff, but he gets to create a story about destroying his island. And the older one, he likes the systems. He's really good at the systems, and then you get really intense on it, and I get pretty good at it. It just hurts my brain. I like my brain getting breaks my brain.
Mm-hmm.
We have this Arc Nova game, and it's just a little too crunchy, and I'm not like, I want to play it, and when I pull it out and try to play it, I'm like, oh, I get it, but there's something that's just lacking for me. Are you gonna read something while I just mumble about
I'm listening
board
to you.
games?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
No,
just
that's
also
fine.
reading the comments as they pop up.
Because we have one game, we only have one like war game, and it's the Star Wars deck building game, which is a very well done game. Even you enjoyed the one or two times, but me and the boys, it's the deck. It's Empire against Rebels.
It was so
Okay,
I'm glad you and the boys.
Yeah,
had
but
that one.
the boys really like it because like we're destroying each
My
other.
favorite is Azul.
Yeah, you're Azul Summer
I like
Pavilion,
Azul.
is it?
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
I'll
I
have to
didn't
get
like
you-
it at first, but I like
She
it
likes
now.
she likes the abstract ones. But
Yeah.
I'm getting us Inish, which is
Yeah.
it's a dudes on a map game. It's a Celtic warriors exploring a new island and then trying to claim the kingship over the island. So we haven't done anything that is directly competitive on the board, and so
Okay,
this
go down.
we're moving it to here. Just take
Oh,
it.
okay,
Beth.
thanks.
Just take the power.
Oh yeah. Oh, Vibrant Goose has been playing Arc Nova a lot. It's crunchy. Cool.
Who's okay? Yeah, it is
Yeah,
crunchy.
yeah.
I'll have to give it again. I need to get some. I need to find some guys locally that some
you can play with?
adult males.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of the Arkham horror, but I just can't play it alone, and it's a lot of work, and I can't like do it for all three of us boys.
Yeah.
Here.
You need some dudes.
So I need some dudes for my map.
Yeah. Yep. You do need some dudes. Oh, you know what's interesting? I was just looking for it. Someone said, Miroir Jumeau says, in Arabic, the second person is gendered too. That's very interesting. That would present a completely different quandary, wouldn't it? Because right now here it's just third person that we're, and you can usually avoid that when you're actually dealing with someone face to face. And somebody else said Twitter is a board game. That's funny.
It's an MMORPG based on sentences, made out of sentences. That's how you should treat it.
Yeah.
It's just an MMORPG
Well, I
with sentences.
I have found it frustrating at times, but I think I've started to learn.
I gave you advice this week.
You did.
You
told
woke
me.
up and you were in a state.
Well, I was kind of. I woke up and I'm just sitting there having my coffee that you brought me,
Yeah.
and I'm checking all my emails and notifications, and then on Twitter it's like it was maxed out on the possible notifications, and I'm like, what the heck? It's blowing up, and I have a pretty quiet Twitter account that I don't usually get a lot of interaction out of, and it was that morning that Kelly J. Keene put me on a blacklist.
On blast.
On a blacklist with a group of other people who have platformed the wrong people.
Yep.
And so there were just a ton of hateful comments.
She was in a state.
I was pissed off for about, what, half hour?
I came back there and I told you Because there was a cloud around her.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
There was a cloud around her. I'm like,
Was it that bad?
and I just said, if you're not having fun, put the phone down.
Yeah.
I said it several times. I'm like, if you're not having fun, and then your attitude kind of changed.
Yeah, I mean, you are usually right, but it takes me a while to.
No, I mean it's
come to that.
it's just advice.
Yeah.
But it's seriously, if it's being a drag on you, put it down.
Yeah.
Unless you can
Well,
engage
and
with it
to
constructively.
me, it's very important if I am angry to allow that to pass.
Yes.
And then to wait and see.
I
how
in no
feel
way
after
was
the
saying to
emotion.
ignore your emotions.
No, but I didn't want to respond to anything when I was upset. I wanted to wait until that passed so I could allow myself to think rationally. And I think I did.
You know
okay.
what I'm going to cook you for dinner?
Salmon.
Yeah. I'm going to caramelize some onions and make some beautiful saffron rice.
Oh yes.
And cook you and grill you up some salmon in a cast iron skillet.
I got coconut milk if you want to use that for the rice.
I like. Oh, I was going to say butter for the salmon, but
Yeah.
coconut milk for the rice. You'll be in charge of the rice, but we'll have to look up saffron rice.
I can do that.
Okay, we'll have to. Saffron always kind of tastes like a soap to me. It's
You
got
think
like
so?
a clean taste to it,
Hmm.
but it's not a disgusting kind of soap.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
got
get
like
any dill. You wanted dill.
I was trying to freaking find the dill, but that's fine. But no, and then I said, well, let's do saffron instead. I don't know. Saffron and dill might cancel each other out. So, do you have any last words for this final moment in our public broadcast?
It might be the final moment after all the weenus and boob jokes today. This is so silly.
I didn't even make a boob joke. I
You
just
just
started
laughed
laughing
about
at him.
boobs the entire time.
Not the entire time.
Just for 10 minutes.
It was just, I was having these visions that I will not repeat on air, or even to you.
Oh, really? Oh, jeez.
No,
now
I'll
I'm
tell
curious.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's nice to see you guys. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining us.
Yeah.
And wait, what does Ninja Kitty say? But which ones are clones and who is me? Oh, is there multiple
Yeah,
Ninja
boy
Kitties?
Zach on how SJW is with the comic book industry. I'll look into that. Thank you very much, Muar. I'll look for Ya Boy Zach. Ya Boy Zach?
All right.
All right. Do you want to end us with the song?
Go ahead. Why don't you sing?
What song do you want?
What was the one you were singing earlier?
Attitude, attitude. It makes me nice, it makes me rude. Mostly I can't control my mood, so what am I to do about my attitude? I said, attitude, attitude. My heart's agitated and my mind feels blue. I got a case of nerves like I can't tell you, but I do what I can do about my attitude. I said, good-itude, bad-itude, optimistic, pessimistic, whatever, dude. Is your cup half empty? Is your cup half filled? Well, doesn't that depend upon the price of refills? Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. See you guys.
Bye.